Welcome to
Ill-Equipped History.
Spooky Bonus.
Emily was like jamming to my boo. She was like waving her arms in the air as I did the boo sound.
I am. Listen, guys, if I sound raspy, I've been sick all week, and I'm also now 3 $1 margaritas in to tonight. So we might have a really weird bonus episode.
And I had 2 beers. So beers and the margaritas will make for an interesting bonus episode.
I am drinking hot tea now. With the sound of my voice already, I feel like maybe it should be a hot toddy, but I don't know.
Maybe no more alcohol.
It is a Thursday, so also it is my son's birthday. So
Yay.
Happy birthday, son! I don't want to say your name on the podcast, but happy birthday! I love you.
Yay! Love you too. Happy birthday.
He's 7. I'm gonna die. Okay.
I know. Oh my god. You know what that also means? My tattoo is 7 years old today.
Happy birthday to Morgan's tattoo! I cannot believe that, like, you texted me. You're like, oh my god, I'm in pain too. I'm getting a tattoo right now.
So, funny story. I wanted to be there for her son's birth because this is my best friend's first child. I wanted to be there, but like she was super late giving birth and like it was past the due date. And I had already had an appointment for my tattoo. And so I literally am going into I think I'm like on the I'm getting ready, waiting for my tattoo appointment to start. And then I think Emily texts me and is like, hey, I'm going into labor. And I'm like, what? Because my plan was, because she had an appointment later that afternoon to be induced, and so I was going to get my tattoo and then just drive to our hometown to just be there. It's like, I know it's not quick. I would have time. And then she just said, I'm going into labor. And I was like, oh no! I'm in the middle of a tattoo appointment.
What's funny is you probably still would have had time had you known, because he didn't actually come out of my body until like
13 hours.
It was 16 hours, I think, total, because I ended up with a C-section because my body's like, fuck you. So, it's fine. I'm not trying to like give y'all horrible, gory birthing details, but like...
Birth is a gory, painful thing to happen.
Yeah. So, long story short, Morgan could have been there, but she wasn't.
I could have. No, I was all hopped up on, like, the adrenaline and stuff, and I was texting Corey. I was like, do I need to leave right now? I'll go. And she was like, I'm here. No, it's fine. You're good.
Literally, half of my family was there. I think my mother and father-in-law were there. My parents were there. My brother was there. Corey. I think Lou was there. I had like 10 people in the waiting room, and they, bless them, they all hung out for like the full 16 hours. And then when he finally came out, it was so late. I was like, I need everyone to leave. I'm tired of everyone being here.
I've been in labor for 16 hours. Go home.
I think the funniest part is poor Nick held on the whole time, and I just got tired of looking at him, because when I'm in pain, I get hateful. I know that. Mm-hmm. And I was like, he was hiding behind me, and he only appeared when I needed something. So bless him for knowing that. But he left to go get dinner and a beer, because I told him to. He was not in trouble. I was like, get out of this room right now. You were driving me nuts. The moment they put the beer in front of his face, I was calling him and I was saying, hey, they're about to give me a C-section. And he was like, wait, don't let him go yet. Wait a minute. Wait.
Did he chug the beer and leave?
Yeah. He was like, I gotta go. And he came back. He made it in time. It was all fine. It was all good.
That's good.
Yeah. So that was fun. You know what? I like where I'm at now. than 7 years ago at this time.
We have all grown a lot since 7 years ago.
Yeah. Oh my God. 7 years ago, I was 24. Ooh.
Oh my God. I was in rough shape when I was 24.
Yeah, I was too.
We were not doing okay.
Yeah, I was, newlywed, pregnant, brand new house.
See, that's great. That's wonderful for you. I was living with my mom.
Yeah.
And I was working in a restaurant and trying to go to school, trying to graduate with my bachelor's degree, finally, after 7 years. And was in multiple, like, horrible relationships. It was just not a great time.
Yeah, I feel that. Also, I mean, we were good, but also I ended up pregnant while still in college.
Yeah.
So then I had my son literally in the middle of a semester, which is the worst time to have a child.
Yes.
He was not planned, bless him. So it was rough, but it was fine. And you know what? We've both grown. We have. We're good. This is good.
It's good. All right. So shall we talk about what our bonus episode that we've been teasing for months now finally is?
God. Okay. So we should just say it at the same time. Ready?
Okay.
And
Brushy Mountain Penitentiary.
We fucked that up so bad.
We can edit it to be close to, at the same time. That's fine.
I like it fucked. Okay. So yeah. How did we end up going there? I think Shelby and I met for coffee one day and we were talking about it because she went with us last year and you and I had looked at different places. And I even emailed someone about it and then scared them off. Because I was like, hey, we're going to look for ghosts. And then I got radio silence after that. Mm-hmm. But we were able to take up to 6 people. And they just like dropped us off. They stayed like in the parking lot, but left us alone for 4 hours overnight from 10 till 2.
Yep.
Morgan was straight up stressed the whole time.
I don't even know. Like, there's stressed, and then I was in like another plane of existence for like most of the night, and I don't even know where that is. Beyond stressed. Shit. Like, pants-shittingly terrified is probably a little bit more accurate.
Yeah, that actually is valid. Shelby and I were running around like chickens with our heads cut off, just happy as can be. Just
y'all
like,
were having a great time. I was not having a good time.
Listen, there was one very, very scary part that we are going to listen to later on. I just left the entire scary part in there because it really didn't last as long as my internal clock says it did. But we're going to listen to it. But other than that, not to like ruin anything, but I personally was not scared for the majority of it. Mm-hmm. I was surprised by that as well.
I'm very happy for you.
I was listening to parts of it because Shelby just turned on her phone recording and just let it run for 4 hours. So what we got was a lot of what we were intending to get, and then a lot of our just like random side quests, like our just conversations and shit. And at one point, you started talking shit about me.
I did? What did I say?
You were making fun of the way I set up optometrist. You were like, guys, I gotta tell you what Emily said earlier.
It was still fresh on the mind because it happened that day.
I'm not even mad about it. It's so funny.
I was like, I would never talk shit about you, Emily. What did I say? A ghost must have possessed me.
The most mild talking shit. Okay. You were literally just telling them that I said something stupid earlier. And you also told them that I thought FAQ was facts and questions.
You were making me laugh a lot, and I had to share that joy. Have we talked about it on the podcast yet?
No, we haven't.
Okay. So, lovely listeners, before we get started to Brushy Mountain, I know it's been like 10 minutes. We will get into it. I had to tell you about what Emily did. That day, just this one day, we went to the coffee shop to like hang out and like do research for Brushy Mountain and stuff. And we're on the website, and she asked me a question. I was like, how about you go to like the FAQ page? She was like, FAQ, that stands for facts and questions, right? It does not.
It does not.
Frequently asked questions. Which facts and questions make sense. You were very close. Because they have facts and questions. So that was that one. It was very funny. And then later on after that, we went to go get lunch together, and we were walking in the square, and we were passing by an optometrist office. And Emily, sometimes like you just read things you see aloud, and she looked at it and
shuts down. It just shuts down.
What
Mine did.
You said like optometriologist or something. And I stopped in my tracks and I looked at her and said optometrist.
I was like, oh shit, yeah, you're right. This says optometrist. I just had a stroke. I don't know what happened.
Apparently the face I gave her was
so
not
bitchy.
kind.
It was like, her face was like, are you fucking with me right now? Like, you are the dumbest person on this planet.
And I'm so sorry.
No, I deserved it. I really did.
So I had to share those because I was still laughing about them, and I needed something to laugh at because I was not doing well.
Literally, I think the funniest part of hearing that, just like, because Shelby had left her phone behind but didn't tell anybody, so it was capturing audio that nobody knew was being recorded. No one prompted you to tell those stories. You were like, I gotta tell y'all something.
I need to laugh about something. And this happened today.
And then all Aaron said was, yeah, I believe that. Like, he didn't even question. He was like, yeah. My sister-in-law's a dumbass.
That tracks.
That tracks. I was like, oh man, my family knows me so well.
Well, you know what? Your mother-in-law was like, I relate.
I relate. Yeah. We literally have a board on the wall at her house that's like, it's called word charades, and we have like a whole point system because none of us can ever remember words. And then we even have added a section that's like words we've made up on accident. And instead of sweat equity once, I said swequity, and it made it to the board.
Good job.
Thanks. Okay.
Right.
Enough laughing. Let's get into the history. Let's get into some depressing shit.
Yeah, this is not a fun story, you guys, which maybe is why we're also kind of procrastinating talking about it, because the history of the Brushy Mountain State Penitentiary is rough.
Yeah. I will say, it is in the town. It's in Morgan County. Morgan, you own that county.
Mine.
Oh my God. But it looks like Petros, Petros. If you are from there, it is pronounced Petros. So that is what we will be referring to it as, in Petros. Yes. Okay.
All right.
Have at it.
I'm going to start. So I'm going to get into why it was built. So after the Civil War, which we've talked about before, the southern states in the United States were broke AF. They had no more resources, no more money.
It's because Cassius Clay.
Yeah, Cassius Clay, yeah. He killed everyone in the South.
Yeah.
So the only things that were really profitable with the lack of resources and stuff were the coal mining and railroad industries while Reconstruction was going on. There's a lot of coal mines along the Appalachian Mountains.
Yeah.
And like they're way out there, like in the middle of nowhere in these mountains. So it was kind of like a boom. Like boom towns started kind of cropping up around where these coal mines were. The coal companies would create stores for people, the miners, to go in and buy goods. They were crazy expensive. And it even got to the point where miners were going into debt to pay for the necessities to live because of these high prices and no other options.
Yeah. They basically had a monopoly on this.
Essentially, yeah. But the miners knew their rights. And in the wintertime, when coal was in very high demand, the miners went on strike. And they worked to get better wages and working conditions for themselves. And this was effective until when private prisons were becoming a lot more popular. The prisoners were basically used as free slave labor. For-profit prison systems, or what's called the lease system, became a thing in the South due to a lack of resources for food, shelter, and clothing for prisons. And there's a clause in the 13th Amendment, which I think the 13th Amendment banished slavery.
It did, yes.
But it stated that prisoners and criminals could be punished through, quote, involuntary servitude, which is still in the 13th Amendment. That is still a clause that is exploited
so
today.
Icky. So icky.
This basically legalizes slavery through the prison system. Yeah. So during Reconstruction, former slaves were given prison sentences for even minor infractions to take them to prison and make up the new for-profit prison system in Tennessee. Which
you sneezed on the sidewalk on a Sunday? Off to prison.
Yep. And this started in 1866. So, like, right when Reconstruction was going on. Like, because the Civil War ended in 1865, right? So it was, like, the next year this happened.
I hate this.
Yeah, again, this is really rough. Convicts were basically rented by the state. They leased inmates to work in coal mines, especially. And this saved Tennessee a lot of money because it didn't have to, like, house prisoners. The coal mine companies did.
Yeah.
For whatever, like, minimal cost. But the state didn't have to. The companies built their own housing for the prisoners at the mines. And by the 1890s, the whole system was abhorrently corrupt.
Big shock.
Yeah, right. But the legalized slavery essentially took away jobs from people that were not prisoners, from working coal miners. And this led to what is called the Coal Creek War. So in 1891, the Tennessee coal mine in Anderson County started leasing prisoners. The actual working miners were pissed off about this and broke into prison camps, tore down stockades, loaded the guards and the inmates on a train, and sent them out of town. Just vamos.
Bye-bye.
But the coal companies were like, Uno reverse, and then they sent the inmates back and troops, like armed guards, to protect the prison camps, which eventually led in a showdown. The armed guards won, but it shed a light onto the tensions between the miners and the state system, and there was a lot of death in this conflict on either side. Because of this conflict, Tennessee abolished convict leasing, and because of this, Tennessee passed legislation to build its own prison for coal mining, which was the Brushy Mountain State Penitentiary.
Yeah. So all of this led to why Brushy Mountain was built. So the state had to pick a spot to build its own prison so they could continue to make coal for themselves. And this actually worked out better for the state because now if they built their own prison, instead of just leasing out the prisoners and making money off of the prisoners, they're selling the coal themselves. So they're making the housing for these prisoners as cheap as possible and making hand over fist on the coal itself. And they ended up picking Petros because, quote, there is no better coal property in the state of Tennessee. It's very mountainous, and where the prison ended up being built was within like a valley, so it's got very sharp mountains on either side. There's really only one way in and out. Very treacherous if you try to go over the mountains, and it's just like tucked into the mountainside. So the prisoners laid the railroad tracks to the site and then built their own freaking prison out of wood and then started mining in 1896. So, I mean, this is happening very quickly. And though none of these prisoners were technically on death row, it was a very, very dangerous place to be. And it was basically a death sentence to be sent here. I mean, accidents, violence, disease like tuberculosis, typhoid fever, pneumonia, syphilis, and unfortunately, more than 75% of the black prisoners were affected by syphilis. And there was inadequate medical care, if any at all. And if prisoners didn't meet the production and mining quotas, they were beaten. And then on top of the poor health and living conditions, a lot of these people died from being just beaten. There was a whipping post. And then if you didn't meet the quota from Tuesday, you were beaten Tuesday night. You had to make up Wednesday's quota and the rest of Tuesday's quota. Like, it was literally a losing battle.
Mm-hmm.
So even if you stopped in the middle of this mine, you were whipped with a leather strap for stopping in the middle of working. And this continued for a very long time.
Too long. And it shouldn't have happened in the first place, but it
never should have happened, but it did.
So how did the Brushy Mountain State Penitentiary evolve through the decades? So by 1931, Brushy had almost 1,000 inmates, and its max capacity was only about 700. So it was way, way overcrowded.
Yeah.
Previous prisoners, when they were recalling their time at Brushy Mountain, they compared it to Soviet gulags in Siberia. Like, and it's just in this tiny little town in Tennessee.
Little Petros.
Little Petros. The wooden prisons, like Emily said, they were incredibly overcrowded and disease was rampant. I mean, you have to know that the hygiene and cleanliness standards were not being met with over 300 capacity. Like, there wasn't really good insulation. Like, yeah. Prisoners were cold all the time, and then they had to steal food and blankets just to survive from each other. So, and that, I mean, kind of bringing it back to an older episode that we did, the Stanford Prison Experiment, like this kind of situation pits prisoners against each other when they're having to, they can't join up. They can't join forces. They can't form like a coalition because they have to survive. In 1932, so just like the next year, prisoners were already writing about like how horrible it was inside the prison. We're even writing like articles to newspapers and stuff about how awful it was. And thankfully, eventually, churches and politicians got wind of the horrible, horrible conditions, and they wanted to help. Like, no one should be in this kind of situation. Even prisoners, like, this is inhumane.
Yeah.
So the state's new commissioner over prisons inspected Brushy and called it a, quote, fire trap and, quote, one of the worst things in the state. So by the mid-1930s, they built a new prison out of sandstone that was harvested on site by the prisoners, of course. It is in the shape of a Greek cross. So it's kind of like a short, squatty cross with like really long cross hairs. I don't know what to call it.
The like horizontal part, really wide horizontal part.
Yeah. And like the vertical part's a little more squatty. It's 4 stories high, and there's battlements. Do you know any like more about the battlements?
It's the battlements are like you see in a typical castle where it goes like up and then down and then up and then down. It's the little
like where you would like stick cannons in between, kind of on like old castles.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm dying over here. It's fine.
Yeah, it's okay. And the politicians and the church members that were wanting the new prison to be built also wanted to really work on reformation of prisoners, because that's ideally that's the point of prisons. It's not to punish, not just to isolate them. It's for rehabilitation, because we don't want to keep these people in prison forever. We want to rehabilitate them, help them, and put them back in society where they won't hurt anyone else.
Right.
That should be the ultimate goal of prison.
Should be.
Should be. There are also new beds and sanitation that provided, and for a while, things were better.
Yeah.
Wasn't completely better, though. It was still very volatile. Still very dangerous. Inmates killed inmates. Guard kills guards. They killed each other.
If I'm remembering right, I think they ended up building their own, like, they ended up building the new prison as well. So they built the railroads, they built the wooden one, and then they used their own labor to build the stone one, too.
They harvested the sandstone and had to build their own prison again.
Yeah. They mined it out of wherever it came from and then built their own prison again. This is fucked.
And it got so bad that 150 inmates went on strike and refused to work. 48 of them stayed in the mine, because they also continued the expectation of working the coal mines during all of this too. So 48 like stayed in the mine as a protest, that like, we're not coming out, we're not working. And inmates even took guards as hostages as a form of strike. But the strikes were eventually ended. Yeah. And then the people who facilitated the strikes, who led the strikes, were, you guys remember how we talked about that whipping post earlier? Yeah. They were severely punished. And some were even diagnosed as insane and sent to a mental institution.
For the love of God, and to think about mental institutions in the 30s. It's just as bad. It's just as bad. It's not any better.
It's not any better. Like, they're not having to do the manual labor like in the coal mines, but the treatment that was provided to patients in the 30s, because there was just such a misunderstanding of biology and psychology. Like, it was nightmarish. Really nightmarish. So fast forward a few years to 1957. During this time, there was a room called the Hole. Basically, just solitary confinement.
For y'all, just so y'all know for the future, it's under the laundry room. And I wish I could say it any other way. It's literally underneath the laundry room. It's in the ground.
Yeah, there's no light. There's no windows. It is a hole.
A hole.
With like, what was it, like 3 cells?
I think it was 5 or 6, but that's it.
Very small cells.
They were like 4 by 6 cells.
Basically,
my
big enough for
like, is bigger than that.
Yeah, like it was big enough for like a cot and maybe a sink. I don't even know if there were.
I don't even think there was a sink. I think there was just a cot.
Probably. So, and I remember the host telling us there was like 2 different holes. There was like the original hole, and they moved the new hole to where it is now in the laundry room.
D block.
And they built D block on top of the original hole. And the D block, it's isolated from the rest of the prison. It's a separate building completely. And that was built to hold the worst of the worst. And we saw these cells too, and they are just, I mean, if you had to stay in there for more than an hour, I would go crazy having to stay in one of the cells for more than an hour. Like, they are so tiny. I don't even think that you couldn't even, I don't even think they're like an arm's width wide. Like sitting with your back on one wall and like reaching out with your palms, you could probably touch the other side of the wall. They are so narrow. Yeah. It's basically like twice as wide as you are as a person. It's awful.
It's awful.
So D block was also, so I guess it was like the hole in like the old quote death house, where bodies were kept until they were either given back to their families after they died, or they were buried at the pauper cemetery up on the hill.
Yeah. I think I heard rumors that they would say they would leave because they tore down like the death house and then built D block. But in the death house, it's like, oh yeah, we'll tell the families. And they'd like have them buried before the families could even get up there. Like it just, they'd have them in the ground within hours.
They had no respect for these prisoners, just as human beings at all. So cave-ins were pretty common in the mines. I'm sure safety standards were not being followed.
What safety standards?
Yeah. There's a cave-in that happened in the 60s. There's a cave-in that happened in the 60s, and it killed some convicts that they were just like guilty of small crimes, like petty crimes, and they were forced to work in the mines, and they were killed from these cave-ins. It's very tragic. Yeah. So up until the 1960s, the mines were the prison's priority because that's how the state made money off this prison, was the labor and the coal. Yeah. But by the 1960s, the coal operation was no longer profitable, and by 1966, they shut down the mining operations. So, introducing Lake Russell, which I like that name, Lake Russell.
I do too.
He came in as the new warden at Brushy. Just punched my microphone, sorry. And he was really wanting to focus on reform. He was a former football coach at the nearby Carson Newman College, and he was the one that was really like advocating for the ceasing of the mining operation at Brushy. So in 1969, the Penitentiary rebranded. Ooh, here's our new look. And they ended up transitioning to a maximum security prison with like some minimum security parts of the prison for the prisoners who were less dangerous. And then 100 beds were added, quote, outside the walls. Did you ever figure out like where those beds were added?
I have no idea, but I'm almost thinking that it was probably one of those smaller buildings that we didn't get to go into.
I think it was that. I also remember reading that a lot of prisoners had to be housed in the gymnasium because there was just literally no more beds in the prison. Yeah. So, and I'm sure y'all
going back through the audio, and Shelby and I were in the gymnasium. I was asking questions like, "Did you live here, or did you just like?" Sorry, my voice is. Play basketball here? Did you live here? Because there were pictures of just almost like, like when a tornado or a hurricane comes through and people take shelter in big rooms, just cots lined up with inmates. Can you imagine?
I'm sure it went about as well as everyone's imagining.
Yeah, a soup sandwich. Yeah.
So the minimum security inmates, who I'm sure were more the ones like in the gym that maybe weren't as violent, maybe it was more like the petty crimes like theft and whatever, a lot of them had jobs within the greater Petros community. Some even served in the Petros Voluntary Fire Department between 1971 to 1994. So they were even allowed like to be outside of the prison.
Oh my God. Okay. Can I just tell you something that's blowing my mind? To give you reference, I know 1966 sounds like forever ago. My dad was born in 1966. That's how short of a time ago that was. They were working in the freaking mine. They didn't stop working in the mines in the early 1900s.
Right.
1966, within my father's lifetime.
I mean, they had televisions and cars and, like, people were in space. People had gone to space by the time that they stopped mining operations.
Oh, my God. Oh! This is so distressing.
So, even though there were some improvements, it was still, like, just a shitty place to be. And the guards thought so, too, because the 1972 guards went on strike, demanding security improvements. And Brushy ended up just being shut down for 4 years. Because the guards didn't want to... They thought it was too dangerous. And they weren't being compensated adequately. So 4 years later, Brushy did reopen. And at this point, Brushy had a reputation for as being the last stop for the worst criminals.
Yeah.
Kind
of like Alcatraz.
Kind of like Alcatraz, yeah. And if you wore out your welcome at another prison or committed some horrific crime, you went to Brushy.
Yeah.
One positive, I guess, is that the prison being open did give jobs to the community of Morgan County, and it is a rural area. Like, we just kind of passed through.
Straight up thought we were getting lost going up there, and we were not.
And even just, like, planning for this trip, we were like, maybe we should stay the night at a hotel, and the closest hotel we could find was, like, 30 to 45 minutes away. They just didn't have hotels they don't have hotels in the county.
Yeah.
Like, they're just not there.
It's just not there.
It is woods and this prison. That is it. That's all there is.
And the houses.
Yeah.
You pass. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. So it did give the people who lived in Morgan County good jobs. And it was the only prison in Tennessee where guards were part of a union. I'm sure in no small part to the strike they went on a few years prior. But, like, it just things didn't really get better. And in the 80s, more, like, layoffs happened to the guards. So, like, the guard staff just got lower and lower and lower. In the 1990s, they began consolidating smaller regional prisons. And they kept laying off workers across the state. And even, like, cut down on the number of wardens for prisons. Like, one warden had to man 2 prisons. Like, it's just...
How?
I don't even know. So, Morgan County fought for the right to be one of the bigger consolidated prison sites to try to get more jobs and stuff. But Brushy did close eventually in 2009. 2009!
We were in high school when this closed.
That was less than 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And if you...
That was 15 years ago.
15 years ago, it closed. And then Morgan County voted to allow the prison to become a tourist site and a distillery.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a distillery on site, and there's a restaurant, and it's like a concert venue.
Yeah, I think they fought for that because they didn't want they didn't want to lose the jobs.
Yeah.
And I could totally understand that.
Yeah. The only thing I just have to say is that place is cursed. I can't imagine being like, oh, what do you want to do for dinner tonight, honey? Oh, let's go on to Brushy Mountain Penitentiary Distillery and Restaurant. Like, there's nothing about that. Like, and also, just walking around this prison, it looks like it's been closed for like 100 years, not 15.
The paint is peeling.
It's moldy, like moldy. It is awful. Like there are even parts of like the main building that we couldn't get into because they were like structural collapses.
Yeah. And someone was living in that 16 years ago.
Like, it's just... It's
I would like to go
mind-boggling.
up there during the day and see what they've done with the parts that they have restored so far.
Mm-hmm.
Because what we saw was just...
It was
my
rough.
God.
I mean, like... The rust was so bad and, like, the water damage was so bad that there was literally, like, rust stalactites, like, dripping from the ceiling.
And D-block.
Yeah. Like, and it was open 15 years ago. Like, the fact that the rust and the decay of metal has gotten so bad that that's happening.
We all suffered for days after being in there from just the mold alone.
Yeah, there's no
let
kind
alone
of, like,
spiritual attachments.
No.
Like, I don't know.
There was no kind of like AC or ventilation in the entire like complex at all.
No.
Except maybe the gym, which is probably why like we had the least amount of issues in the gym. Because I think the gym is still, like, being actively used. Like, there's a scoreboard in there. Which is also crazy to me. Like, there was, like, basketballs in there.
Yeah. And, like, stacks of Cokes and Dr. Peppers and an ATM machine for their concerts and stuff.
And you know what's right outside the gym? A whipping post. Like,
the whipping post!
It's still there. It's a replica, apparently.
It is, or I was about to say. But it's in the correct spot.
It's right in front of the gym. Right in front of the doors to go into the gym. You have to walk past the whipping post. And I'm just like, oh yeah, that's the whipping post. It's
super
bonkers.
Cash.
Super cash.
Oh my God.
So, like Emily said, the opening of this distillery and making it a tourist site did allow more jobs to be accessed by the citizens of Morgan County. And then the property itself was transferred to the Morgan County Economic Development Board so they could lease and control it. And they're still working to restore it, making it a concert venue and all of that. Also, like, the prisoners did find ways to kind of make the best of it. They painted murals inside the cafeteria, which is actually really nice. Like, I was super creeped out going into the cafeteria, but once I, like, looked around, saw, like, there's, like, paintings of raccoons and, a woman in a garden and, like, teacups with a teapot. Like, it's so cute. And I was like, okay, like, I don't feel as creeped out with, like, these, like, nothing was, I mean, horrific things happen in the cafeteria, but the cafeteria itself was, like, nice.
I loved the murals until you get to the ones that are peeling off the walls, and I'm like,
the prisoners also had a string band. They made jewelry out of whatever they had access to, like spoons. There was a basketball team that played local teams in Knoxville. And they had a softball team. Yeah. Like, within the prison. So there's like little flecks of brightness in, like, this swamp of just horrible.
Swamp of horrible. Should be a tattoo. Just Swamp of Horrible.
A band name.
A band. Oh my God. Yes. So, now that we know what the prison is like, let's get into some of the more notable prisoners. Starting with Robert Gibson. Now, we do know a good amount about him because he is one of the very few that he's still out. He's out living life. He is no longer within the walls of anywhere. So he was part of one of the most violent episodes in the prison, though. So Robert Gibson was sentenced to 99 years in prison on a murder conviction in the late 70s for killing a fellow inmate in the Knox County Jail when he was 17 years old.
Oh my God.
He said that Brushy was one of the most violent places he had ever been in. I believe him killing that murderer, or that him killing that fellow inmate, was the one that the tour guide said that he, like, this is going to get graphic, guys, so skip ahead if you don't want to hear it. Like, cut up the body, flushed it down the toilet kind of murder.
Yeah.
When he was 18, he was illiterate. He arrived to Brushy, and the only way he could survive was to just become predator and not prey. That's the only way to survive a place like this. And he called himself Wicked at Heart, and he said he would take the vents off the air, like the air vents off, and make knives out of them. There were 2 opposing groups, and Robert Gibson said that it was black against white, yes, but according to his account, it was only black against white because it just was. It just happened to be the 2 groups that were fighting each other were black and white. Not that it was because of any racial tension at all. Other sources say that it was racially motivated. So I'm going to put it out there. Gibson says it wasn't. Other sources says it was. Doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. So the group of prisoners that were black ended up being sent to Nashville in 1982, but then eventually were sent back. Now, the warden at the time said he had no idea that this was going to happen. And all the guards, all the other prisoners were like, you're the biggest dumbass on the planet if you didn't think this was going to happen.
Yeah.
But eventually, Gibson and 6 others ended up finding a way to break out of their cells one night, took guards hostage, took the guards' guns, and literally went down the row and were shooting the opposing group, unfortunately, the black prisoners, just in their cell. They were basically sitting ducks at this point.
Yeah, because, I mean, again, these cells are tiny.
Yeah, where are you gonna go?
You can't hide.
So, they ended up killing 2 of the opposing group, but the other 2 who ended up getting shot managed to survive because they were literally hiding behind their mattresses. And the group said they were also planning on killing the warden if he ever showed up, but he never did. So the warden was like, oh, no one told me this was going to happen, of course. And the shooters were nicknamed the Magnificent Seven, which tacked on decades to Gibson's sentence. So he pretty much had a life sentence at this point. And then in 1998, he found religion. He became a Christian, learned how to read, he learned how to read by reading the Bible, and then was released on good behavior in 2011 and is out there. So, and he still volunteers at prisons.
I actually looked him up because I just wanted to see what he was up to. I couldn't find a whole lot, but I did see on the New Providence Primitive Baptist Church website back in 2019, they had an event where Robert Gibson came to preach.
Oh.
And, like, give his testimony.
Okay. Hey, he's out there doing shit. And he seems to be not killing anyone recently.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, like, and that's the whole point of prison, again, is for reform and rehabilitation. Right. So if he was rehabilitated in prison and is no longer hurting people and is living a life that any objective person could say is good, then you know what?
Sure.
He did his time. And
yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So on to the next. Byron Low Tax Looper. And I really, really freaking wish that Low Tax was a nickname. It's not. He legally changed his middle name to Low Tax.
All right.
Yep. So in 1996, when we were just wee babes.
Wee babes.
Byron ran for property assessor in Putnam County, where he was born. And he didn't participate in debates or anything. He just ran negative campaign ads against his opponent, and he won the election.
Oh my gosh. That's like the minimal effort for an election.
Yeah.
It is Putnam County, though.
Low tax, low effort. So, so a week after taking office, Byron called a press conference to announce that he discovered $100 million worth of property taxes that hadn't been paid. And then immediately the county commission, to which Byron reported to, responded that was a normal backlog for this time of year. Tell me you don't know anything about the job.
Right. Like, this
without
is fine.
Telling me. They're like, yeah, it's going to get paid. That's normal for this time of year.
Mm-hmm.
So they also suggested that Byron should just do his job and stop holding press conferences. So Byron held a press conference to announce that they were right.
Okay.
And then he left town for Puerto Rico. So
I mean, that's a natural progression of things.
Yeah. Go on vacation. So he started using the office to punish or bribe his enemies. And then he won the primary against Tommy Burks, who was a popular incumbent for state senator. So he was running for senator now. He ended up kind of winning the primary. But in October of 98, TBI was literally breathing down his neck over corruption charges and stuff.
Tennessee Bureau of Investigation.
Oh, yeah, sorry, Tennessee Bureau of Investigation. So, he didn't see really any chance to win a fair election. So, do you know what Mr. Byron Low Tax Looper decided he should do?
Something rational, I'm sure.
Yeah, he drove out to Tommy Burke's farm and shot him in the head.
Rational.
He was arrested, convicted, and then arrived at Brushy.
Wow.
The first night he was there, he refused to scrub pans in the kitchen, and that earned him an extra month of scrubbing pans. So they moved him to the Morgan County Correctional Complex after Brushy closed, and he ended up dying there in 2013.
Wow.
At
Poor
only
Tommy
48
Burks.
years old. I know. He was just trying to run for senator.
Yeah, and he was like the popular vote. That's so sad.
This one, if you're a true crime girly or guy, you'll not enjoy, but, well, I don't know. All true crime people enjoy things. So, they just stress me out so bad. So we've got Paul Dennis Reed, the fast food killer. Reed was 20 years old when he was convicted of armed robbery and sentenced to 20 years in Texas. So he paroled after 7 years. So he decided he would go to Nashville, and he had dreams of becoming a country music star. When he ended up washing dishes at Shoney's, he was...
Common fate for the prospective artist coming up to Nashville.
Yes. He was none too pleased. And then he was fired for throwing a plate at another employee in 1997.
That'll do it.
Listen, Nashville is a 10-year city. You got to be there a while.
Yeah. You got to make connections. You got to know people. Like, you don't just become a star because you just move out there.
Star. Exactly.
A star.
So, I'm a star. So, the day after losing his job, Reed went to a Captain D's, which was just down the road from the Shoney's. He forced a 16-year-old employee and her 25-year-old manager into a cooler where he shot them dead and stole the money out of the register.
Oh, that's so sad. Oh, 16. Oh, my gosh.
It's going to get worse.
Oh, no.
The next month, he killed 3 more employees at a McDonald's just 3 miles away from that Captain D's. And then the month after that, he drove an hour up the road to Clarksville where he kidnapped and cut the throats of 21-year-old and 16-year-old workers at a Baskin-Robbins. Oh, and then left their bodies in Dunbar Cave, which is a popular state park.
That is so sad.
Yep.
And, like, that is, like, Clarksville is, like she said, it's an hour drive. It is, like, you have to go with the intent. Like, that's not just, like, a spur of the moment
so thing. Out of the way.
You have to go so far to Clarksville. Like, it is almost to Kentucky.
Yeah.
And, like, he went there with that intent. He had so much time to change his mind.
And he didn't. No. That's 7.
That's so sad.
So, he got dubbed the fast food killer. And he was convicted of all 7 murders, given 7 death sentences. So 7 life sentences, which is the most ever handed down in a single case in Tennessee.
You know what? That he deserved it.
He did deserve it. And he ended up at Brushy. And then when it closed, he too moved to the Morgan County Correctional Complex. And also died in 2013 from pneumonia.
That both Low Tax Looper and the fast food killer both died in 2013.
Yeah. And they also went in within like a year from each other.
That's very
strange.
That is strange. Like, it's almost like too specific to be a coincidence.
Yeah. It's like, and Looper died from a problem with his heart. He died at 48 years old. And then the fast food killer, 20 years old when he moved. He was 27. So he really wasn't. He was in his late 30s, early 40s as well.
Interesting.
Strange. Yeah. Also, we were 2 years out of high school. Just the thought of, like, this was within our lifetime.
It's so crazy.
And we had no idea.
No idea.
Okay. Now, the most famous.
So this next person we're going to talk about, you should know who he is, but if you don't, you'll definitely know what he did. So Sweet Shelby, who went with us, did not know who this man was.
It did. Like, once we explained who it was, she was like, I knew he sounded familiar. But, like, she could not place his name.
So we were just, like, saying his name the entire time. She was like, I don't know who that is. And then we told, like, our hosts, and they're like, you don't know who he is? And she was like, no. It was just...
It's so funny.
But she did know who he is, just not his name.
Right. I'm really bad at names too, Shelby, so don't feel bad. But Shelby, bless her heart, went into this with no knowledge for the sole purpose of doing the Estes method. And I will explain what that is later. but it helps if you're unbiased. So she literally was like covering her ears and being like, la, 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 every time something got brought up about it. So thank you for your service, Shelby.
Yes. Thank you for your ignorance. I'm just kidding.
Yes.
Just kidding.
So the last inmate we're going to talk about today specifically is James Earl Ray.
Boo.
Yeah, fuck you. But anyway, the guy that killed Martin Luther King Jr., if you're unfamiliar or like Shelby, just couldn't place the name. So, 1968, he shot and killed Martin Luther King Jr. in a hotel in Memphis. And they had to move him around quite a bit because of his safety within the prison. Before they caught him, I didn't know this, but he had actually successfully escaped the country before they found him. And they found him in England before they brought him back and put him in prison.
That's so crazy.
He escaped the death penalty by pleading guilty to murder, was sentenced to 99 years in prison, and then was like, wait a minute, I'm innocent.
I'm pleading not guilty.
Too late.
You took the plea deal, because obviously that was a plea deal that was taken.
Anywho, so he was sent to Brushy. And the warden at the time was like, he's just another prisoner here. We're not going to worry about him escaping. Immediately, James Earl Ray was like, I'm a bounce. Yeah, I'm going to get out of here. So in 1971, on May the 3rd, he took a tunnel that ended up taking him to the steam plant on site. But he couldn't go in there because steam plant. Like, he would have been roasted.
Yeah, just like boiled alive, essentially.
Yeah. So, he got caught, got put back in. So, in 1972, he was caught sawing a hole in the ceiling.
That's not very subtle.
No. In 1976, he started pushing conspiracy theories and was trying to get, like, a trial. And he was like, oh, it wasn't me. It was blah, 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 blah. I need a retrial to get out of here. And then in 1977, on June the 10th, with 6 other inmates, so it wasn't just him this time, he made it over the damn wall.
It's a big wall.
And then... it's a big wall. Now, some conspiracy theorists say that the FBI, and I'm doing big air quotes here, made him escape so the FBI could kill him. Okay.
That doesn't make sense.
No. They're like, they just want to get rid of him so he'll shut his mouth. No,
I'm sure
he
they
just
could
tried to escape.
I'm sure they could find other ways to do that without, like, making him escape. It's the FBI.
Without causing a scene.
Right. And allowing 6 other prisoners to escape.
Yeah. So, they found him in the wilderness a few days later, a few miles from the prison. He did not get very far. And he apparently, this is the funniest shit. The source I found said he laid down and covered himself up with leaves, but the dog sniffed him out and, quote, took him into custody. And I was like, when I read that, I was like, the dog took him into custody?
Bark, bark. That means you're under arrest.
The dog reading him his Miranda rights.
The poor dog is trying to use his mouth to, like, fit the handcuffs because he can't use his paws.
Yeah. Also, how dumb is it that he was like, the dog will never smell me if I'm under these leaves.
The leaves will hide me.
Dogs can't smell past nature. So dumb. The whole thing. Okay. So they caught all 7 fugitives. The public had a damn field day. Like, like, apparently they had this huge-ass ladder to get over the wall, and the public was like, how the fuck do you hide a ladder in a prison?
Not easily.
Like, why was there no guard at that spot? And apparently one guard, who definitely, quote-unquote, wasn't paid off, because you can't convince me otherwise.
Right.
Like, the guard said he tripped over his own rifle and accidentally locked himself in the watchtower while the escape was happening. Like, is this Looney Tunes or Dumb and Dumber? What the fuck is happening?
He is the Three Stooges, but just one of them.
I'm imagining the, like, the noise you play when someone's skedaddling, the
yeah,
and like tripping all over themselves,
like the pew and the all the funny sound effects and stuff.
Scooby-Doo, what the fuck?
Yeah.
So then apparently the warden fired him, but then the state gave that guard his job back.
You tried. What matters is that you tried. Wink, wink.
Oh my god. So, during all of this, James Earl Ray met a news courtroom artist with WBIR, and somehow they fell in love. And
it always happens.
She was convinced that he was innocent, and they got married, like, while he was in prison.
Mm-hmm.
And they investigated the trial again in 1978. It went nowhere. They were like, yeah, bruh, you're guilty. So, a few years later, 3 other inmates attacked him and ended up sending him to the hospital, where he had 22 stab wounds. It took 77 sutures to close up the wounds. None of them were really life-threatening.
That's crazy.
I don't know how you get 22 stab wounds and none of them be life-threatening. Like, how bad of aim did all 3 of these inmates have?
Very short shivs, I guess.
They were basically butter knives, I'm assuming. I don't know. But he ended up being sent to Nashville, and for the next decade, he would be sent back and forth between Nashville and Brushy. He ended up getting a divorce from the artist, whose name was Courtney. And then she went on to say that she's like, yeah, I think he did actually shoot him. Really?
Huh.
You don't say. He ended up dying in 1998 of kidney disease and liver failure at the age of 70 in Nashville.
Rest in distress, James Earl Ray.
Rid. I like that. Rid. We want Riddy anyway.
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to be talking about escape attempts. Because why not?
Why not?
And Emily made sure this quote was put in. Quote, "The mountains are more of a prison than the prison is. One way in, one way out," as she said earlier. Which it is. Like,
truly. Terrifying.
Like, the road up to the prison, it's so ominous feeling. Like, the mountain just surrounds you.
We pulled up in the dark. Morgan was taking a little nappy nap in the back seat. We pulled up to the prison and she woke up like something summoned her. She's like, "We're here." Like there is a presence, there is an aura around it that like awoken Morgan in the back seat. Like, we didn't even stop the car. She was like, "I see it. I sense it. What is happening?"
I could feel the dread that filled my entire chest the moment we like turned into the road. I was like, oh no. It was bad. And the mountains just surround you. Like,
they envelop you.
Yeah, it felt like you could barely see the sky.
Yeah.
Like, the mountains are just right there. And you can't it's just, yeah.
Yeah.
Also, like Emily said earlier, it's like Tennessee's Alcatraz, but unlike Alcatraz, people escaped all the time.
Yeah.
Because they're, I mean, they left the prison all the time. They, like, went to the coal mines. Yeah. They weren't stuck inside the prison like they were at Alcatraz. And, I mean, they escaped on foot, in cars, and once on a stolen mule.
Because why not?
You just got to use what you got, right?
I couldn't imagine a mule being hasty about anything. Come on, like, go.
I am on my own time, motherfucker. You better just sit back and chill.
Listen, you could run faster than this, bitch. Like, get off me.
I am a load-bearing animal. I am not built for speed.
I'm built for power, not swiftness, damn it.
And for almost 100 years, between 1922 and 2009, the Knoxville newspapers had hundreds of articles about all the killers that had escaped Brushy Mountain and were on the run. Uh-huh. So there's one night, 5 guys tried to escape. They took a sheet and knotted it up where they could swing over some pipes and climb out a window like a rope. And they were caught, of course, because they were trying to climb out a window on a sheet rope. And one prisoner was quoted as saying, don't shoot, you can't blame a man for trying.
I mean, you can't. And I think with that, they just, like, put him back in. And he was like, oh, well.
So in 1938, there was another escape attempt through the mines, and they did escape. There were 38 convicts that were on the loose.
Okay, apparently they, like, mined a new tunnel and just popped out the other side of the mountain.
That's insane.
Literally, the picture I found, like, mountain and the mine was here, and they were like, bloop.
It did not hurt they had dynamite.
No, they gave prisoners dynamite and were like, don't burrow your way out. Like, how can you monitor that?
No.
For real.
And a lot of times, local families that lived in the area would lock their doors to keep them out, and they would, like, put supplies on their porches and stuff, like, for the prisoners to take, so they wouldn't break into their properties, and they would just, like, take what they needed and go.
Yeah. I think it was Shelby I told that, and she was like, is that not aiding and abetting a prisoner? I'm like, if you live a mile away from a prison
that people escape from all the time,
I don't think they're gonna get you on any charges if you're just trying to be safe. They're like, here's food, here's water, I'm letting the police handle it.
And you're not, like,
out there.
You're not handing it to the person. Like, you could still say, like, I left my packed lunch on the porch with a change of clothes, and then the next day it was gone. Like, it's not like you are helping them escape.
Right. You're not having any interaction with these people. You're like, I kicked my dirty boots off on the front porch, and now they're gone.
Yeah, and they did it for good reason, because some of these inmates were violent, and they would immediately start committing crimes against these innocent people and families on their way to freedom. There's a horrible story about a man named William Tynes. He escaped, and he broke into a house in Harriman, Tennessee, and sexually assaulted a woman for no reason. And he was sent to the electric chair for that crime. Many guards and police died trying to bring these prisoners back. And there are some cases that guards would prevent prisoners from leaving, and they were killed in the process. In 2005,
oh my God,
the prisoner George Hyatt was in the Roane County Courthouse when his wife shot and killed Wayne Cotton Morgan. He was a well-liked guard and just a few years from retiring.
So sad.
And both of the Hyatts escaped but were caught the next day in Ohio. And there is now a memorial at the prison for Wayne Cotton Morgan. So in addition to, like, we talked about earlier, there's the maximum security prison, but there were also minimum security prisoners that had jobs, had a little bit more leeway, could even go out to the community and have, like, volunteer jobs, which is insane to me. But they were trusted. I don't know why. They're still prisoners. They were allowed to drive trucks, operate machinery. And guess what? Some people who were super trusted still escaped. Because they were still prisoners.
They just couldn't keep it contained. They're like, I could go right now. Literally, I'm not going to lie. I understand this. This is totally not near severe, but I understand the mentality because when I was in elementary school, I could see my own backyard from the playground of the school I attended. Do you know how many times I stood at the edge of that playground and just thought, I could go pet my dog right now. I could just leave. And it was so tempting. Like, I couldn't imagine being like, I'm in a truck right now. No one's watching me. I could just leave.
And then just leave. Who's going to stop you?
No one.
In 1950, one inmate sped off in a work truck when he found out his wife wanted a divorce. He was like, oh, hell no. He drove all the way to... He drove all the way to Jellicoe.
That's like 3 hours.
It's so far away. It's like it's way far away. And he drove through the walls of the restaurant she worked at as a waitress. Unfortunately, he killed a World War II veteran that was just eating his lunch. It's so sad. So tragic.
Horrible. Ugh.
It's so sad. No word on what ended up happening with his wife. She was not killed in this incident. No. Thank goodness. But, but as you sometimes hear, sometimes after the prisoners escape, they're like, you know what? Things weren't so bad in the prison. I always had a meal to eat. I always had a place to sleep. So sometimes prisoners that escaped would just come back on their own. Like one guy, he wanted to go home for the holidays and see his family, but he couldn't make it through the mountains because mountains are fucking treacherous. And so he just came back.
He was like, never mind. There was one that neither of us wrote down, but Yvonne, who went with us to the thing, she used to sing at this prison when it was still open because she was in a choir or a group or something like that where they would go and sing. And she said she met an inmate, and I forget his name now, but he learned the art of contortion. And then when he worked in the kitchen, he folded himself up in a turkey box and like sent himself out of the prison, but then like was caught in the woods somehow. And the only reason he was caught in the woods was because one of the guards just happened to be like hunting that day and just was like, hey buddy, what are you doing out here? And they got sent back in. He was like, that's a man with a long plan. Yeah. Like, He's
learned I'm going to learn contortion. It's hard.
To fold myself in a turkey box. I could never. No. Wild.
The amount of stretching you would have to do. That's a lot.
Yeah.
All right. So that's it for escape attempts. Do you want to get into the fun facts?
I fucking love fun facts.
I do too.
So they had a pet. So in the early 1970s, a very young deer fell off a cliff and into the yard. And the inmates ended up keeping him and calling him Geronimo. It was the only pet that they had, and he liked to chew cigarettes. So, during the labor disputes between 72 and 75 that we discussed earlier, the inmates ended up having to move to Nashville during those few years, and they didn't know what to do with the deer. 127 of the inmates voted to take Geronimo to Nashville with them.
Aww.
12 said to move him to the Knoxville Zoo. And one inmate said we should just eat him.
There's always one.
There's always that one. The state ended up moving him to Nashville, but he did have trouble adjusting. I don't exactly know how long he lived, but he ended up injuring a leg and ending up losing that leg due to the injuries. But he was a very beloved pet.
Aww.
Then some pop culture references. So there is the novel and the film The Firm features fictional Brushy Mountain inmates. Silence of the Lamb. Hannibal Lecter actually escapes while being transported to Brushy.
Oh.
Yeah. Many musicians have played for the inmates over the years, including Mark Colley and Tim McGraw in 2001.
That's crazy.
And my favorite, the Old Crow Medicine Show, has a song called Brushy Mountain Conjugal Trailer, which I listened to the entire thing. I adore that song. In reality, Brushy never allowed conjugal visits. So, whatever.
Because a prisoner could just escape and visit their wives anytime they wanted, apparently. So,
meet me in the woods at noon, honey.
All right, I'll bring my truck.
So, Brushy Mountain today. So, most of the land was purchased by Tennessee and is now Frozen Head State Park. And the park is now over 24,000 acres. Like Morgan said earlier, it's now a distillery and a restaurant. And the park also hosts the Barkley Marathons, which is one of the world's toughest ultra marathons.
I've heard about the Barkley Marathons. I don't remember who I was talking to, but they said there's like, they even have like a documentary about it on Netflix, I think. Yeah. And it talks about like going through the Brushy Mountain Penitentiary and stuff.
Apparently, you have 60 hours to complete 100 plus miles of unmarked course that changes every year, but it always takes a route through the prison.
God, that moldy prison.
Yeah. Do you know why they do it?
Why?
It mocks James Earl Ray's 1977 attempt at escaping. Because he only made it 2.5 miles, or he only made it a few miles in 2.5 days.
So, like, we got 60 hours to do 100 plus miles. Suck on that, you filthy casual.
Yeah. From 1986 to 2018, only 15 runners have made it the entire way in the time allotted.
Wow.
It's
crazy.
Hard. So hard.
Oh, man. Woo. You ain't going to catch me doing that marathon.
Listen, I can hardly talk right now, let alone
run 100 miles. That is over. You have to run like more than... I'm trying to do math in my head, and it's very hard right now. Never mind. I was trying to see like how many miles you'd have to run in an hour to be able to do that. 60. I don't know. I don't think I did that math right. I can't. I had 2 beers earlier, and I'm tired.
Turn into a leopard, please.
60 miles an hour straight.
Oh my God. Absolutely not.
No. All right. So now we're going to get into our actual experience at Brushy Mountain. And it was so scary.
Oh my God.
So we go in. Well, we meet our hosts who unlock the door for us, and they tell us a quick history about the prison and let us in. They give us, can barely be called a tour. We literally just like walked in one courtyard. They said, these are these buildings. We walked into another courtyard. They said, these are these buildings. Don't go into the hospital. It definitely has a demon in it. Okay, bye.
Well, they said, if you go into the hospital, don't poke the bear. If you come out and your eyes are rolled back into the back of your head, we're locking the doors and we're leaving you.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, and they're like, this is on the third floor. They said a couple other things that happened on the third floor. And so our original plan was that Emily and I were going to split up, so we could get like the most experience and like maximize our time. And we split up, and I was put into a group with Yvonne and Nancy, and they're like, all right, y'all go to the third floor. And I literally started bawling my eyes out. And I was like, please don't make me go to the third floor. I have
never in my life seen Morgan have such a reaction so fast. I was like, what is happening? Are you okay?
I couldn't control it. No, I was not okay. Like, this is the first time I've had my entire, like, every cell in my body say, if you do this, you will die. Like, it was a visceral fear reaction. That was like, I can't. I physically, I'm, like, getting shaky just thinking about it. Like, every nerve in my body was saying danger. And I was like, please don't make me go up to the third floor. Please. From the jump, I knew there was something going on with the third floor, which we'll get into later. But I was like, please, and crying. And they were like, okay.
Yeah, I was like,
you don't have to go up to the third floor.
You come with me. It's okay.
I was like, really? I can come with you?
I was like, yes. So Shelby ended up going with Yvonne and Nancy. And then it was me, you, and Aaron. And I guess we should introduce these people. Y'all will remember Nancy and Shelby from last year. Oh, I just hit something. You'll remember them from last year. But Yvonne is a wonderful, beautiful, amazing woman. She actually married Nick and I. She was our officiant in one of Nancy's besties. And then Aaron.
She's rad.
She is rad as hell. And then Aaron is my husband's brother. So it's our brother-in-law. Shelby's husband. So, yeah, there you go. He was like the dude of the group. Bless him. He hung in
Which
there.
Which I'm very glad we had a man there.
Me too. Thanks, Aaron, for being our, like, ghost bodyguard.
Yeah. Well, and the ghosts really liked Aaron.
They really did.
Get into. Mm-hmm. So, the first place that Aaron, Emily, and I went, we stayed in the courtyard. And because I was so scared, Emily was like, handed me a stick of sage and was like, here, hold this. This will help you. I clung to that thing for the entire night.
That was like, her stick of sage.
It was mine. I didn't let go. I put it, like, my hoodie pocket had, like, balls of sage, like, all, like, strewn about, because I'd, like, stick it in my pocket to, like, do something else with my hands. I never left that stick of sage. So I took some notes about our first experience. I recorded it on my phone. So I'm going to go through some of the incidents that we had. And then we will play you guys a segment, not the whole thing, because it's about 20 minutes, but just some key moments of the recording. So Emily, why don't you start us off with explaining what the Estes method is, because this is really important in our investigation.
So, the Estes method is when you take a spirit box. And if y'all don't know what, I'm breaking it down for y'all today. A spirit box is like a little handheld radio, and it is designed to go through frequencies of radio frequencies. So it's going to sound, when you hear it on the audio, it will sound like the ghost shows you'll see. And it is going up and down the radio frequencies. And the thought process behind this is that a ghost can pop into one of those frequencies and just say a word. And it does sound really jumbled. And what I've learned in the very brief, again, we're ill-equipped, in the very brief time that we've been doing this, we like AM radio because it doesn't have as much traffic on it. So you won't hear like a random commercial or ad or radio host like popping in saying a word. It's kind of quieter. So I feel like you get more words, if like authentic words per se. The Estes method is when you take a pair of noise-canceling headphones, which I have because thanks, Nancy, for my Christmas present last year. Really nice noise-canceling headphones. And you can't hear shit of what's going on. And you plug it into the spirit box. So then you are isolated. You are supposed to be blindfolded. We forgot a blindfold, but the person doing the Estes method just like covered their eyes, like closed their eyes.
Yeah, it was dark.
It was dark. Yeah, you weren't seeing shit. A second individual will ask a question, and the person with the headphones on will not be able to hear the question asked, so they are unbiased. So if you ask, what is your name? And the person with the headphones is supposed to just say out loud whatever answer they hear. So say Morgan has the headphones on. I'm asking questions. I say, what is your name? Morgan says, purple elephant. We know that has nothing to do with anything. But if I say, what is your name? And Morgan randomly blurts out, John. Okay, that's kind of relevant. So it gives a little validity to this whole thing where it's like, we don't have a biased ear listening. Now,
right.
Do we always take technology with a grain of salt? Absolutely. It is technology. Could there be a dude hiding in the woods with a radio transmitter thing? My husband explained the whole thing. I don't know how it works. There's plenty of people who do.
That was like a 45-minute discussion we had the morning after. Like, this was all fake.
Like, I'm so stressed. So, could there be someone listening into our conversations and feeding us answers? Slim.
It's a non-zero possibility,
Of course. But we have to say that. It's just a clause, I feel like. They are booking these for money. Yeah, we get that. So, could this be hoaxed? Yes. Could it not have been? Also, yes. We're going to let you guys decide. We're telling y'all what we found. So, there we go.
And it's spooky.
It's spooky.
Okay, so I have a sort of transcript that I wrote down. I'm not going to play the entire recording even for you, Emily. Mm-hmm. I'm just going to go through some high points and I'll play some things that were interesting.
Okay.
So we started, again, in the courtyard. Aaron started wearing the headphones. At about 2 minutes, 46 seconds, he repeated, help me, and it started again.
Weird.
Which is spooky.
Ooh.
But we didn't get any responses to our follow-up questions for that.
Yeah. Also, in the courtyard,
minutes,
in the courtyard, we were, 15 feet from the whipping post?
Yeah.
Okay, so just a reference. There's that.
And about 15 minutes from, one of the wings of the prison.
15 feet? So, you said 15 minutes.
15 feet, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. I was like, no, it wasn't that long of a walk. Okay.
I am stressed.
That's okay. You're stressed just listening to it.
I am. Yeah, so we're, it's not a very big courtyard, and we're on a picnic table. And the host had told us about a woman named Bonnie who is possibly the only woman to have died at Brushy Mountain. Was she like a worker?
I have no idea.
Did she say?
I don't think we ever got an explanation as to who she was.
Yeah, if she even existed.
Yeah.
Jury's out. Apparently she responsible to music, but we played music and we didn't really get anything. I will say, I think when we first started, and you were trying to reach out to Bonnie, I felt like a very gentle cold breeze crossed my face.
There was no breeze.
So
that's something.
I was like, oh, that was a chilly breeze, and then there's no more wind for the rest of the night. It was the most humid, sticky night.
It was August the 30th. It was hot as balls out there.
There's no breeze at all.
No.
So that's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so the thing with Bonnie, that was really the only thing. And then, again, almost at 3 minutes, Aaron repeated, help me, and it started again. At 4 minutes and 3 seconds, He said they're pushing up. And
what does that
Emily
mean?
said, I don't know. We asked, are you okay? And then at 4 minutes, 23 seconds, Aaron said, keep back. And so we asked, are you a minor? Were you wrongly here? At 4 minutes, 59 seconds, he said, testing. Don't know what that is. And we're like, testing what? And then at 6 minutes, 10 seconds, he said, go, and then wait. And
which one is it? Go or wait?
Yeah.
Which one do we do?
Stop being contradictory.
Oh my God.
So at about 7 minutes in, I listened to the headphones, but I didn't get anything. And so about 9 minutes in, the headphones switched to Emily. So Emily, I'm going to play a little bit for you.
Guys, before we get into this, there are going to be some times where you hear the and there's going to be some times where you don't. This is an instance where we're doing the S's method. So that sound is in the headphones, and then there will be later recordings where you're going to hear that noise. So if we're using the spirit box for both, just know that sometimes you'll hear it, sometimes you won't. So
yeah.
Okay.
And when you don't, we're using headphones.
Right.
Were you wrongly incarcerated?
Stop tattling. I think. It was definitely stop. Telling? Stop.
Stop asking questions. So there's that. Stop tattling or telling.
Stop tattling.
And then at 11 minutes, 39 seconds, Aaron had been adjusting in his seat. And then Emily said, keep moving. So then he kept moving in his seat and started dancing a little bit. Aaron got multiple requests to keep moving around. He was getting bossed around.
Yeah, he was. Sounds like a guard that's like bossing people around. It's like, quit telling them that they're wrongly, accused or they're wrongly here. And like,
possibly
keep moving, like keep working, keep
moving. Don't stop. Don't lollygag. Keep moving.
Yeah.
And then at 11 minutes, 58 seconds, Emily said hot and or not. She couldn't tell what came after, maybe stove.
Yeah.
And so Aaron asked, did you work in the kitchens? At 12 minutes, 16 seconds, Emily said think, maybe. And then 12 minutes, 37 seconds, she said tipsy. And then I'm going to fast forward. And this is where we're going to get into spooky.
The spot. I know exactly what this is. Witches. Instant.
Do you see the sage?
Witches. Saw the sage! Oh my God!
And at this point, I start smacking Emily.
I was getting abused. I was like, why is it saying witches? I don't know what's happening. I had no idea. I'd forgotten about the sage already.
So I started smack, because that's my reaction when I'm panicking. I smack. And she's like, what? And I'm like, dude, were you hearing what I was asking? And she's like, no. I was like, I asked if you saw this. Can you see the sage? And you said witches. And Emily said, oh my God, the sage.
The sage!
And it was at this point I about shat. And then
we'd only been there 30 minutes.
And then Emily was talking about how nauseous she started to feel.
Yeah. That's my tell. That's my tell if something's around me. I start getting and it's not a stomach nauseous. It is just purely in the throat, if that makes any sense at all.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
And then Aaron started playing music for some reason, maybe to summon Bonnie. We're not sure.
Yeah. We didn't ask. We should have. Like, hey, why are you playing music?
So that was our courtyard experience. It was a little spooky.
So, you got to remember, Shelby, Nancy, and Yvonne, or Evie, they were in, during the time we were in the courtyard, they had gone to the 4th floor where it is said a ghost named Johnny is. And apparently Johnny likes cigarettes. They ended up asking a lot of questions, and they heard some knocks. But before they heard some knocks, Nancy ended up seeing a green light almost pop out of the, like, a little green light, and it came out of a cell, hovered, and then went back into the cell, almost like popping its head out, looking, and going back. Let me play for you her explanation that I found on this audio. That, I don't know if I've explained this to y'all, but Shelby turned on her recorder and then left it on the entire time. So this is how we have a lot of this audio, because God bless Shelby.
I can hear and stuff, but it could have been just away on it. It was little bits here and there.
Mm-hmm. It was either here or here. It was like a little green.
Tapping?
No, it was.
Oh, you saw green?
I saw green.
Oh.
But I was here, but it was like it just came through the bars real quick and went back.
So that was her explanation of what she saw at the time. So the lantern that Shelby had a little green light on the top of it. They did try everything to kind of make it do that again, but that little green light was not even bright enough to, like, really reflect on anything at all. So that was debunked as much as we could. Then they decided to kind of park it, ask some questions. Evie is a smoker, so she had a pack of cigarettes, and while they were sitting there, they're like, do you want one? Do you want to light a cigarette? We've got a new one for you. But then this one was really interesting. They started asking the spirits to knock if they wanted to answer. So here we go.
Anybody done wrong? Knock once. Or yes.
So some of these I did make just a hair louder because it was really hard to hear, but you heard that click. Yeah. That was her. So then Shelby asked, if that was you, knock again, and you will hear another loud, enhanced audio.
If that was you, please knock again.
Was there, but it might have been hard to hear. But it was kind of like a dong, kind of like a bigger, like something hitting something metal. And again, this entire time we're in the courtyard. It was not the other group doing that.
Yeah. We were nowhere close to where this was taking place.
So then Nancy asks, are you waiting to go home? So let's hear that one.
Are you waiting to go home? Knock once.
Yvonne, was that you?
Mm-mm. No, I'm sitting real still.
You're not waiting to go home.
And you hear two
Is
clicks.
that two?
Yeah.
I did.
No. And here's them explaining themselves again that it's.
Do you want to go home? Do you see? And it
was very distinct two knocks,
Yeah.
and I thought it was
really?
you.
No.
It's like
See,
they
I
always
can
hear
hear
it.
it.
It sounded like it came from that direction, but I was like, was it Yvonne by some chance and it just
No,
happened?
I wasn't moving. I was very still, and the only thing I
It
did was
was
draw on a
too-
cigarette.
It was two very distinct.
My cup was not even being touched with ice. Wasn't clinking, and there's not much ice left.
It was too distinct. It was perfectly
Okay.
spaced.
Well,
That's-
and then when I'd asked the question, there was one,
Yeah.
but that double one was like,
It was an answer because she said not once, not twice.
Well, it was before she said knock twice because she said knock once for that question, and there was a distinct 2 knocks.
yeah.
Okay.
And then she started specifying because it was like, okay, maybe it was a clarity
But it
thing.
could have been, yes, yes.
Yeah.
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 Because I was just, that was kind of interesting, but
They're like trying to justify.
They
it to
really are.
themselves.
They're trying so
Could have
hard.
been
They're
anything.
like, what was it? Could have been yes, yes. Okay. So then something crazy happens. And we didn't even know that this was happening until I listened to this audio, because I was not present with them at this time. By this time, Morgan, Aaron, and I had gone into the gymnasium, and we were using just the spirit box. So from our perspective, we hear because I had bought 2 walkie-talkies just because we knew we weren't going to have cell signal up here. So just in case 2 groups needed to get in contact with each other. And on our radio, you hear the walkie-talkie beeping, and I think we're getting called by the other group. So I pick it up, say, hey, we're in the gym, da-da-da-da-da. We do hear Shelby respond, but then we never respond back to her. We think, like, I know from our perspective, we're like, we're trying to do a freaking recording here. Why are you, like, for no reason, calling us? Like, you said you're fine. Why do you need us? Like, that's kind of what was happening in my brain, at least. From her audio, it is vastly different. It sounds like we're the first ones to
That's
call
so
them.
crazy.
So let's hear Shelby's audio first as to what happened.
I mean, I don't think all of this would have been his.
That was me. That was me. Yeah. I guess she dropped something.
We're in the cafeteria. How's it going for you guys? Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
If you hear a lot of noise, the phone was in her pocket at the time, so.
Can you hear me? Oh, just can't hear her. Maybe just heard her.
Now, I want it to be known that if you hit the call button, you hear you're calling someone from your own walkie-talkie. So it makes the do-do-do-do-do-do sound on your end. So we would have heard that reflected in Shelby's audio as well. Mm-hmm. So, Morgan, do you want to play yours?
So we had a lot of fuckery going on with our walkie-talkie, which I'll get into later too, in this same session in the gymnasium. So I'm gonna play a couple clips. I'm so spooked out. I'm like literally shaking.
Because we had no idea this was happening at the time. We didn't even, until I heard, I was like, that's not how it happened, but it's in a recording, documented. Yeah. I text her, I was like, what do you remember of that day? I
Okay, so I'm gonna play the audio from the gymnasium.
Okay.
This one is one of the ones where you hear the
Yeah.
from the radio scanner. So some of the things might be hard to hear. So just be aware of that. So let me move forward. So when I play this, you're going to hear some beeping and then some radio correspondence.
And you'll hear what I said to Shelby in response to the beeping. Okay. To line it up with what was happening.
So I guess we just never answered her.
I guess not, because I was trying to... I mean, I was like, why are you talking to us right now? We're good. We don't... Because I had said we're spirit box recording. So I was like, she'll know I'm recording. Like, we don't...
So in response to Emily's, is anyone here? There's a noise that may have been a yes.
Sounded like a yes to me.
And then jumping forward about a minute, we hear a couple more things with the walkie-talkie.
Our walkie-talkie started going nuts, and it was the only time in the entire night that our walkie-talkie were being weird.
So that was Emily finally responding to Shelby.
Yeah.
Saying, Emily, can you hear me? And she said yes.
Yes.
And then Shelby says something else.
Yeah. Poor Shelby was probably like, why did you call me? Why did you call me?
It's crazy. So starting at around, and this is very sporadic, so I'm not going to play every single instance. But we start getting a few more responses that are kind of hard to hear. And I didn't include every single one that we may have heard because it just wasn't definitive. It was like a burp. It was like, what was that? I don't know. So at 4:51, Emily asked, did you like being in the gym? And we heard something I heard something that sounded like,
Okay.
But I don't think either of us picked up on it at the time. At 6 minutes, 7 seconds, Emily asked, did you have a favorite game? We heard something that may have been once. It was hard to tell. And then I'm going to jump forward to 9 minutes and 5 seconds.
Someone outside called us a witch. Was that you? That's me. That's me?
I heard either that's me or absolutely. It was hard to tell.
That's so strange.
So it was a strange response. And then...
Is that okay? That's cool.
It sounded like it said, that's cool.
Yeah, that's cool. He's just pointing it out.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad we get to talk to you today.
So that one was a little bit harder to make out. It kind of sounded like kind of sounded like cool.
Yeah.
Kind of sounded like a hit. Like, it was kind of hard.
Yeah.
So we don't get anything for a few more minutes. At 12:54, I think you asked, what year did you come here? And I couldn't tell if it said 32 or 92. So let me jump forward. Oh gosh, I'm trembling so hard it's hard to like control my computer. I am like racked. I cannot stop.
What year did you come here?
So it's almost imperceptible.
I almost heard 92.
Yeah. I couldn't tell. It sounded like 92, but it also kind of sounded like 32. It definitely ended in a 2.
I think the gymnasium wasn't built until the 40s. So it would almost make more sense if it was 92.
Mm-hmm.
Going off of history. Yeah.
Yeah. So right after this, we started getting some fuckery with the walkie-talkie.
Oh, the fucking walkie-talkie went mad. My friend scared me. Asshole? Asshole.
So we both heard different things, but Emily said, my friend scared me. I think she heard asshole and I heard happens. And I listened to it several times and it was still hard to make out. But something with 2 syllables. And that was the spirit box, not the walkie-talkie. But a man's voice started coming in through the walkie-talkie.
Yeah.
And Aaron was the only man on this property that we were aware of.
Yeah, because our 2 hosts were female. And we're so far, I mean, someone would have to be like in a house close by with a radio interceptor thingy-madoodle to have.
Yeah.
I think we were too far away to pick up police scanners. Like,
I don't know what that was. I really
know.
don't. Because also we're in the middle of the mountains. Like, there's going to be, like, they're not going to be able, I don't know what it was, but some man's voice started coming through our walkie-talkie. And we were like, what is that? Is that the police? Are we picking up police chatter? Some kind of, like, trucker frequency? We didn't know.
We don't know what the hell it is, but it was the only time it happened that night. It happens, but it happened. I didn't say that. Yeah, that was one of them.
So jumping forward about a minute, we keep getting more of like the interference. This was kind of funny.
I know. What are y'all messing with the walkie-talkie?
So it was hard to hear, and I could only hear this after like listening to the recording on max volume. So after the interference happened and Emily and I were like, what is happening? I hear something, and it's either it's the police or fuck the police. I couldn't tell. I'll replay it and see if you can figure out what it said, Emily. Okay. It's very quiet. It's very, very quiet.
Okay. I'll close my eyes and concentrate. That sounds like fuck the police. Oh my god.
It does sound like that.
There's a hard F in there.
Yeah. Fuck the police. So maybe this person wasn't a 92 and liked was it Wu-Tang Clan
that
sings it?
Is it NWA?
Yeah, NWA.
Yeah.
They like NWA.
Fuck the police. Maybe.
So after about another minute, I think we were ready to go.
Yeah.
And so we're like, if we go to another spot, will you still be here if we decide to come back? And then it sounds like it says, now what?
Uh-huh. If we went to another spot, will you be here if we come back? Now what? Did you hear that? Yeah. Now what?
And then Emily asks the question again, and it sounds like it says, please don't go. I know. So let me...
so sad.
Let me fast forward to that.
I think we might have to go find our group. Will you be here if we come back? coming with?
So it's hard to tell, but I listened to it a few times and like on full volume, and it sounds like it says, "Please don't go."
Yeah, I encountered that a few times where when you're in the situation, it is hard to hear. But then when
especially
you hear
with the echoing that was going on in the gym.
When you hear it on recording, you're like, oh, that makes so much more sense. Yeah, it did sound more like "Please don't go." It's so sad. I'm glad
that's very sad.
We did. I will say we did end up going back to the auditorium or to the back to the gym. Shelby and I did later. So I did we will hear more from our friendly gymnasium ghost later.
So it's at this point in the night all six of us reconnected. I think we went to D Block first, right? And we walked around D Block for a minute.
I think we had let's see.
Or did we do our little session?
We did dowsing rod sessions before that.
Okay. So the next thing we did, we stayed in the courtyard. Emily got out the dowsing rods, and I decided I would try to use the Estes method while she was because I didn't want to go anywhere near the whipping post. I got bad vibes from it too.
Yeah.
But she wanted to go to see if she could get some reactions there. So my idea was I'll stay at the picnic table, doing the Estes method, and that way I definitely wouldn't be able to hear anything Emily was saying.
Yeah.
So if I got any responses, they'd be really genuine. Unfortunately, we can't hear what the other people are saying.
Right, because Shelby walked over with me. I thought Shelby still had her phone on her. She unfortunately had set it down on the picnic table next to Morgan. So we ended up with two versions of the recording from Morgan's point of view and none from mine. So, whoopsie doodles, we're ill-equipped.
We are ill-equipped. There was a couple things.
I was going to say, there were a few things that I could barely make out. And then I've got some responses from you. And I think maybe together we could try to jog my memory. I think I can remember a few of the questions that I asked.
Okay.
But first, I want to play a little recording of Shelby explaining her, she was explaining an instance she had. And if you listen to last year's bonus episode, you'll know that she is a bit sensitive as well. She sees more shit than I do. Thank God I don't. But let's hear from her and her little vision thing.
Yeah, we did turn out the lights, but I was hoping we could see something by turning out the lights.
Yeah.
And I thought I could maybe feel something sitting in there in the cell.
My vision kept getting like darker and darker, but I was just attributing that to us being in the dark.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, I started
but like my eyes,
to the darkness.
My eyes weren't adjusting. That's the thing.
My eyes adjusted.
Mine usually will, but they weren't.
Okay.
So that's weird. It's like she was sitting there and her vision was going black, but everybody else was like, oh yeah, I'm adjusting just fine. And she was like, oh, the world's getting dark.
That's very
scary.
creepy.
And then there was a bit of a whistling noise
from the spirit box.
No, it was you
demonstrating the whistling.
Yeah.
I almost hear a whistling noise. Like I keep hearing like a...
The whistling is very interesting because Shelby and I get whistled at in the gym later, and we'll hear that.
But this was like a constant, like the entire time I was listening to the spirit box, it was like a very high-pitched whistling noise constantly. Because there's a couple times, I didn't write it down when we were in the gymnasium, but there's a couple times I heard like a similar noise.
Yeah,
that may have been a whistle, but it was hard to tell.
Yeah. And then you ask, can you say, okay, this is part of the dowsing rod session.
Can you say that again? Okay.
And I wanted to ask you about that. You went, mm-mm. And you went, okay, did it say mm-mm to you like it didn't want to? Or did it just not respond?
I think, I can't remember. I may have heard like an mm-mm noise.
Yeah.
There's a couple times I heard something that sounded like mm-hmm or mm-mm, and it's just hard to tell.
Right.
There was at one point, 6 minutes into my recording session, I could hear you guys say something, and it was hard to tell. It didn't really sound like y'all were asking questions. It sounded like y'all were kind of talking. And I heard a why or why them.
Ooh, that was my next one where you said,
okay,
why them?
Did you say why? Why them?
Yeah, and you can hear us
And
talking.
I was...
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good. I was trying to make out what you were saying beforehand, and it sounded like you said, now just go in there. It was hard to tell because it was so far away.
I had been asking questions like, were you whipped here? And if I believe it said yes. I mean, because of course it did. And then it said, did you die because you were whipped here? And I believe, and again, this is memory, it said yes. And then I asked if he was here during the mines. I was asking things like, were you here when the mines closed? And were you here on just cause? Were you wrongfully put here? I was asking things like that. Do I remember exactly
right.
what they were? What, yes or no? Unfortunately, no, because of our little audio mishap there. So that sucks. But yeah. And then let's see. I'll just go ahead and play the rest of my dowsing session, and then we can. I'm already.
M said
I was saying in the background, I did actually hear this one. You can follow us around the grounds all you want to, but you cannot follow us home. And I was like, you know that, right? And it was like agreeing, yes, we know that.
Yes.
Yes.
Now, at this point, I had come back to the table.
Mm-hmm.
You were still doing the SS method, but I was asking questions again.
Yeah, and I couldn't hear. And right before you came back to the table, at about 10 minutes, 22 seconds into my recording, I heard table. And someone came over and shut off the lantern light.
Yes, that was me. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you asked, do you always stay in the courtyard? And I responded, yes.
Yes. And then, so we'll listen to that. And then Aaron's...
Wait, there is one more thing I heard before I let go of the recording at 13 minutes, 54 seconds. I heard what sounded like boobies. I was like, boobies? Is that what I heard?
It might be lots of women there that day. After this one, do you always stay in the courtyard? Says yes.
Do you always stay in the courtyard?
Yes.
And then the next one, Aaron had gone next to the whipping post and was sitting with something. And in the audio, you can hear Shelby and I.
He just asked us to move away from the post. Very politely, though.
Yes, so we're moving away from the post.
And I got that in my recording.
Oh my God. Okay, good.
Because Emily, you took my phone with you and Aaron to get recordings of you guys doing the Estes method. So I was able to, it was.
You heard, wait.
Do you want me to pull it up?
Yeah.
Please get away.
You want us to get away from Aaron?
Or do you want us to get away from the post?
The post.
Okay.
Get Aaron.
Aaron.
You just asked us to move away from the post?
Very politely, though.
Yes, so we're moving away from the post.
Aaron and I, you know those cell blocks that were right behind the courtyard? There was like a growl or like a man going like humph, or just like a man noise. And it was like, and at first I thought it was like something hitting the metal. And I tried everything to like replicate it, and I couldn't. It sounded like a male's voice going like, humph. I'm going to play us talking about it real quick.
I heard some growling.
I thought I heard growling, but I was also wearing the headphones.
Aaron and I both heard it's almost like not really a growl, but more of like a
I thought
Like
I
a
was hearing like
frustrated-
a breathing in my ear through that, but I just honestly thought that it was the radio.
hate that.
You said, hate that.
Hate that. I did. I still do.
So, if you would like to hear, do we have anything else from the courtyard? I almost said courtroom.
I don't. And then I took some other recordings in some other areas that we went into, but I didn't. There was at one point, this is really dumb. When we were we went to the cafeteria later, Emily, Shelby, and I, in a moment of bravery for me. I didn't really get anything. We didn't really get any knocks, but at one point I started hearing like a tone.
Yeah.
With like, it almost sounded like Morse code. So I was like, what if I can interpret the Morse code? I cannot. I tried.
I'm so proud of you for trying.
I did. I'll show you. I tried to like write down like the dots and dashes that I heard. I was not right. And then I looked up like a Morse code like translator, and I was like, how do I translate? I don't think I can. Okay, I guess not.
Oh my God. Are you ready for some comic relief?
Yes, please.
Okay. I found so many just random, we are unhinged people, as it turns out. And here's a fun little...
A poop bucket?
It's just a bucket.
Well,
I'm calling it a poop bucket.
then probably a poop bucket.
Probably a poop bucket.
Poop bucket.
I got the same recording from my cell. I also recorded in cell block D.
Oh my God. A poop bucket? I'm calling it a poop bucket. And then apparently, when I'm nervous, I sing. And I didn't realize I was singing so much. And I'm just walking through a prison.
Try to play the music and I'm going to be working a little bit.
Just singing.
It's your
Somewhere
self-soothing
over
strategy.
over the rainbow. There were many instances, and if you hear shuffling, it's because the phone is in Shelby's pocket while she's walking. We're literally walking up the stairs, and I'm like, somewhere over the rainbow. I'm like, the acoustics in here are jamming. It's amazing. Okay, so we are in the cafeteria at this point. And I did amplify just a little bit the knock because it's very soft. But we asked, knock if you're here.
If you're here, could you please knock once?
Might not have been able to hear it, but it was there. It was like a dong kind of ring. The other group was in the courtyard still. We were across the prison. So I don't know about you. I did not capture anything else in the cafeteria.
I didn't either. That was it. At one point we could hear the other people talking. We saw their flashlights.
Yeah.
So they did get close at one point. So, because we didn't really get anything in the cafeteria, we went to the hostage block. I don't know what else to call it.
Yeah. That's where in our history section earlier, those few men were killed. And then the others hid behind mattresses to survive.
Right.
Did you get anything there?
Not on a recording.
Shelby didn't either.
I got a very creepy feeling.
I felt
like
a lot
we were
of
there.
grief and sadness.
I had a mental image of something lumbering toward us, and I was like, I'm very uncomfy now, and I can't get this mental image out of my head no matter what I do. So I think I was literally like about to open my mouth to say I'm ready to go, and you were like, are you guys done? And I was like, yes, I'm done.
And you can even hear, we're not going to play it for you today, but you can hear in our voices where like I was like being overcome because I always feel like a weirdo when I say this, but I'm a little bit more empathic. So like the vibe of a room hits me freaking hard. And I'm like, I feel sadness and anger and grief and so many mixed emotions. I was like, I can't breathe. Can we go?
It could also be the mold.
It could also be the mold because I'm asthmatic. But it felt in my chest, the grief and the anger and all that.
So after this, it's still me, Emily, and Shelby. And Emily and Shelby want to go up to the auditorium. And immediately I was like, I really don't want to.
This is where the spooky thing is. The scary thing is, the lady said.
Yes. So I was like, okay, I'm going to try to be a trooper.
Yeah.
I go up the stairs to the landing on the 3rd floor. And my body won't let me take another step.
Immediately she seizes. She's like, oh my God, no. No.
And we even did like a cleansing circle before.
I did a protection, a veil of protection to try to get us in the right vibe.
And I was like, no.
She wasn't vibing.
I cannot. So, and they're like, well, you can go back. And I was like, don't make me go alone. I will die on the spot. And so
we walkie-talkied. We're like, we have these walkie-talkies. We'll have Erin come get her. And then turns out they all went to the bathroom and left the walkie-talkie on the picnic table. So we had to go find the group.
Yeah.
It was fine.
It was a mess.
It was
fine. There's one reason why we brought these walkie-talkies, and neither of you guys were doing your job. So
at this point. Oh, we said at the same time. Fun.
We did.
Morgan leaves us. And
I cannot anymore.
It's just Shelby and I. And we still have an hour and a half to go, like, in this investigation. So Shelby and I are now
so over it. I was like, I want to leave. I'm done. I literally sat on my ass the rest of the night.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm not going anywhere.
It's
done.
fine. Shelby and I took care of it. So
yes,
we, Shelby and I went all the way back. We did have a nice little pee break though. So we went all the way back up to the auditorium. Now it's like half auditorium, half hospital. And correct me if I'm wrong, Morgan, but the auditorium is really strange because they said they had later converted the auditorium into individual rooms for therapy reasons.
Right.
So when you walk in there, they're almost like cubicles that are fully enclosed, but there's windows, big windows in each one. So obviously, so you can see what's happening in there. Think about all the like trauma dumping that happened in these rooms. So I can understand why something big and scary would happen. So just kind of imagine Shelby and I pick the most central room possible on the auditorium stage. We're right smack ass in the middle of this thing. And I'm already getting weird vibes. And I'm thinking to myself, it's just because they told us that something is scary is in here, right? So I might have to play this just maybe parts of it twice for you, because this is, I believe, the only time that we actually picked up something on the recording that we didn't hear at the time. And it is, I'm getting chills right now just thinking that it's
my God, I'm getting like
creepiest noise ever. Okay, so what you're going to hear is me complaining that I forgot my stupid memory card for my fancy ass camera that I have. I left it in my laptop at home. So you'll hear me complain, you'll hear me set down something, and then you'll hear a knock that's really loud that sounds further away. Then you'll hear me go, "What was that?" Me shuffle around with something, and then a strange noise.
Oh my God, I'm...
And
See
then...
how bad I'm shaking.
Yeah, I know! And then I'll pause it and see if we need to listen to that section again.
Okay.
I think I forgot the memory card for this. So stupid. There's that. That was me. That was not me.
Yeah, this will be fine. We can do like this. Are you still recording?
Did you hear it?
I don't know what I was expecting to hear.
It sounds like a baby crying.
Play it again. I didn't hear a baby crying.
Okay.
Oh my God.
Let me turn the volume up just a hair. See if that helps.
I think I forgot the memory card. I forgot the memory card for this. So stupid. There's that. Just is that? Yeah, this will be fine. We can do like this. Okay. Are you still recording?
Morgan, what was that? Oh, I can't hear you now. Oh my God.
Because I wasn't talking.
Oh.
No sound was coming out. Oh my God. Oh my God, I'm going to cry. Oh my God.
I didn't hear it till I was alone in my kitchen, like re-listening to this. I did not hear that. I'm going to cry.
Oh my God.
I did not hear that.
Oh my God, I can't even like describe what my body just did in that moment.
Okay, for the listeners.
Why was there a baby crying at a prison?
I don't know. For the listeners, we're going to hear just that little bit one more time because I'm going to throw up. Oh my God.
Oh my God.
Okay, So obviously I did not hear that. So I... But I did hear...
I hate that.
I did hear random knocks and noises, and I thought mumbling. From my recollection, that's what I thought I heard. So you're going to hear me say, like, what was that, or something like that. I'm going to play you our entire experience. Audience, you're going to get a lot of silence here, but I'm leaving it there so you know exactly how long we were in the auditorium. Because from the time I said, I'm stupid for leaving my memory card, to the time I said, let's go, that was our entire session in the auditorium because I was scared. In the middle of this, you're going to hear me say, for audio's sake, I'm scooting back. That's because the rooms aren't very big. We were sitting on the floor in the middle. I scooted back because that feeling that something's behind you, I was like, my back needs to be up against the wall because I'm freaking out right now. So...
My whole body's convulsing. I can't get it to stop.
Yes. Here we go.
I did it.
What did you do? Did you just make that noise out there?
Again, I heard knocking, not a baby crying.
It's still going.
That's Shelby breathing. Because she was labored breathing at this point. Because she was stressed. She has the headphones on. I'm watching it, so I know I'm not going to talk over anything. She has the headphones on at this point. And she's starting to get this really kind of far away look. And not going to lie, at one point, I was like, it got her.
Is someone in here with us?
Is someone in here with us? I thought we were going to get murdered by my own sister-in-law because she got possessed by a demon. Because I was freaking the hell out internally.
For recording's sake, I'm scooting back.
I could feel it.
Is someone here? What did you do?
My stupid ass yawns.
Did you give her an answer? Do we need to go?
You hear me ask, do we need to go?
Go! We gotta go.
Immediately didn't question it, so we gotta go. Okay.
She said it so forcefully, too.
Go. That's because you're supposed to say what you hear. She heard go. I literally did the whole, like, pointed a finger in the air, spun it around, pointed at the door. We packed up. I've never packed that bag so fast in my life. We ran down the stairs. I passed her. I said, I love you. Bye. Like,
You and friends on stairs do not work well together.
So, what she heard when she had that far away look was 10 seconds, that entire time, when I said, when I asked the last question, whatever it was, I think it was like, is there someone in here with us? Or did you give her an answer or something like that? From then on, it was screaming in her ear. Like, she said it sounded like one person, but it was like a blood-curdling scream. And then it said, go. And we booked it. And the entire time, this was the only place I felt like this in the entire prison. That, you know that feeling when you're running up the stairs from a dark basement and you're like, oh shit, it's coming for me, whatever it is. I never
had a basement, so I can't relate.
Oh shit. Okay, well.
I can put myself in the perspective though.
But it's like something's going to get me if I don't get out of here right now. You're like racing. That's how we felt. And we did not stop feeling like that until we got out of the building. And that's when I immediately ran up, stole your sage, took Evie's lighter, lit it, and I just saged both of us. I was like, nope, not today.
The four of us, or maybe it was the three of us. I don't even know. I think Aaron was wandering off somewhere, but me, Yvonne, and Nancy were like sitting at the picnic tables, and we're like, I think we were just like, I hope they're okay. They've been gone for a couple minutes. And then we see Emily and Shelby booking it toward us, going, where's the sage? Where's the sage? And I was like, here. And they're like, oh my God.
This is why. I was so scared.
And they are immediately like, Morgan, you listened to your instincts. We should have listened to you.
Yeah, I was like, I'm so proud of you for listening to your instincts because we didn't. Oh, it's so scary.
Oh my God. Oh, that baby, like, I don't know if you could see me like in our Zoom windows, but I have been convulsing so hard. Like, you know, like how Jack gets, like my Jack, and he just shakes so hard, and you're like, how are you still alive? That's how I've been, like, just like violent
I was
trembling.
I was alone the first time I came across that audio, and I was like,
hate
it. Oh my God. Okay, so we get back to the picnic table. Shelby and I sage. I never even made it to the 4th floor, even though I wanted to, because I was not passing the 3rd floor again.
None of us ever went back into the prison.
No.
Itself, like not the prison proper.
No. Shelby and I went back we popped into the hole, didn't really find anything there. A lot of sadness, but that was about it. We kind of poked around D block one more time, but then we had a big old session again in the gym. So this is my last bits of audio. I kind of picked out the best ones. So you are going to hear the but the first one, Shelby and I were just alone in the gym. I don't know if you could hear what we were doing in there. Could you, from where you were sitting?
No.
Okay. So this is the first little bit of audio from the gym. It is a whistle.
Is your name Jonah?
That came out really muffled. Could you speak just a hair louder? Did you whistle at us? Thank you.
I heard absolutely.
So that
didn't sound like any of the whistles I heard.
It did not sound like any of the whistles that, like, I heard a couple in other recordings previously. That one was very much a like, I can't whistle, so I'm gonna need somebody else to. Yeah, but that was a whistle. And it did kind of, if you isolate that one little bit, it does kind of sound like absolutely, which is an answer we had gotten earlier as well.
Yeah.
So then should be another whistle on this one.
Hey, I'm a married woman. We both are.
Did you just whistle again?
There it is again. So this one, I'll go, is this the same person from earlier? We think it said, "Afraid so."
Is this the same person from earlier?
Afraid so.
So then I just start asking off-the-wall questions because I feel like these people need normal questions asked, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I ask, what do you do for fun? And we think we hear basketball. What did you do for fun?
Basketball.
Basketball?
It was a very high-pitched voice.
Yeah, it almost sounded feminine at that one, but it did
Yeah.
sound like basketball.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we said, let's see, did you play any other sports? Did you play any other sports? Hockey?
I almost heard rugby.
That's what Shelby heard. Yeah, I could hear rugby. I guess I cut it off early, but Shelby said, I heard rugby. Then I asked, which is really interesting that we asked about music, because we had mentioned music in the gym earlier. I had forgotten about that, honestly. Do you like music?
Of course I do.
At the time, it did sound like, of course I do. And if you listen to it again, of course I do. Then I asked, I like all music. And then it sounded like it was that too or me too. I like all music. That was a very short one. I know.
Yeah, it was
They're
hard to tell.
I just have an audio. I think it's like I asked something and then it said there's two of them.
Ooh.
Like the 1870s or 1970s? There's two of them. That's what it sounded like.
I heard that. Hope it wasn't talking about you two.
That's what I'm thinking now. Let's see. Do you like 90s country? Do you like 90s country? Incredible? What did that sound like to you?
It's hard because I heard something.
Yeah.
It went but it was hard to tell specifically.
We heard incredible. So let me replay it. Do you like 90s country? Incredible?
I heard incredible that time.
Yeah.
But it almost sounds like a question. Like,
yeah.
Incredible?
I know. Incredible. And then there is just random. It says there's more. Okay.
So it almost sounds like there's one more.
There's one more? Yeah, there's one more or there's more. But it's really weird. It's either like there's more or there's one more. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then I asked if he liked Biggie Smalls or Snoop Dogg. And it said same thing. So.
Rude.
Ooh, do you like Snoop Dogg? Biggie Smalls?
Same thing.
Kind of. But that was...
Or same one or something like that.
Yeah, it was a feminine voice at that point. It was really weird how it goes back and forth. And again, like, is it radio interference? I don't know. But it's just very, like, a coincidence, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And then I thank it for talking to us. Says no problem. I do want you to know that we appreciate you speaking with us.
No problem. That was so clear.
That was very clear.
Yeah. And then Shelby calls it playful, and it says not the first or like not at first. So.
You're very playful.
Not the first.
It's very low, but it sounds
Yeah.
like not at first or not the first. And then I ask, what do you mean by that? And that is in response to not at first or not the first. And then it says, that's too heavy. So.
What do you mean by that?
That's too heavy.
That's pretty clear.
Yeah. Then Shelby starts asking about someone she knows from her sister's side. Their uncle had been imprisoned there. So she was asking about that person because he did pass at the prison as well.
Okay.
Did you know a man named Pierce? Harvey Pierce?
And that's hard to hear, but it sounded like it said which one. And
I almost heard like a
yeah, that something like that. I could not find an inmate list at all. I cannot confirm if there were like more than one or. And then she asked, "Do you know why he was here?" And she heard felony, which would have been accurate, but I'll let y'all decide.
Do you know why he was here? What is a felony?
That one's hard to hear.
Yeah, it does kind of sound like felony, though.
Yeah. So we started asking about the fast food killer. Were you here when the fast food killer was here?
Fast food.
It did sound like fast food. It was very weird. And then I said, is there anyone we're missing? Because we did talk about a couple other people with very with not very good responses. And I said, is there anyone else we're missing? And then we hear either no one or not much. So like not much or no one we're missing. Is there anybody else we need to know about that we're missing? Not much.
Kind of sounds like no one.
Yeah, no one. I heard not much at the time, but on the audio it sounded more like no one. And then I cut out a little bit so we didn't have to sit here and wait too long. But then it sounds like there's gotta be. So we'll hear that one too.
Said there's gotta be.
Yeah, there's gotta be. And then I said, well, we have a podcast and we're here to tell your stories. And then it dawned on me as like, you probably don't know what that is. It's like a radio host. And we're here to tell your stories. So I asked, can we tell your story? Is that okay? Well, I guess you might not know what that is. It's like radio host. And we want to tell stories about this place and the people that were in it. For y'all's sake. Okay. You heard a okay. Just okay.
Very, very faintly.
Very, very faintly. I'll play.
And even when you were talking, it almost sounded like an
Like he was, I heard that too. not at the time, but I did on the recording where it was almost like got it. Okay. Understood. But I'll play the okay. And then after a few minutes, I go, are you still there? I heard something, but I'm not quite sure what it was. So I wanted you to hear it. And then you'll hear, can you tell us your name? And it sounds like Wilson. So I'll play all of these together now. Are you still there? And can you tell us your name one more time just so I know I get it right?
Wilson? That's different from what you told us the first time.
Maybe that's his last name.
Is your name something along the lines of Jonah, Jones, John, Wilson?
It's hard to say.
I almost heard like it's hard to something.
It's hard. I think that last one.
Like it's hard to get out.
It's hard to say, I think, is what it ended up saying. Let me play that last one again. It's hard to say. It's either it's hard to say or it's hard to do. So that was the last of them.
So Emily and Shelby came to collect us, and I think it was about 2 a.m. at this point, and you did want to go try to find the chapel.
Yes.
And we didn't really, we saw something that could have been a chapel, but we didn't find anything definitively.
Yeah, so we didn't get to go in there, which was a bummer.
Yeah.
But that's okay. We got plenty. The baby crying was enough
That's
evidence
gonna haunt
I
me
needed.
forever.
Yeah. I think I'm going to go, hug my husband and be like, hold me so nothing murders me in my sleep tonight. Thank you.
Real. I cannot even describe. I kind of wish, we were, recording, videoing ourselves.
Recording. One of these days we'll do that.
Because, the silence that y'all heard for, about a minute after I heard that sound, I literally couldn't produce enough oxygen
Her
to
mouth
go
was
through,
moving.
my
I thought the
vocal.
audio went out. I
literally was, shook.
Just the thought of it, because that sounds just like a freaking baby crying.
I could feel a chill go through my entire body to my toes and then back up and then back down. I've never had that feeling before.
I multitask a lot when I edit the podcast, so I'll be cleaning, doing mindless things while listening, and when I just something I can stop and then edit real quick and then go back to it and then stop and edit real quick, whatever. I think I was just in the kitchen and I heard that and I was like, huh, what was that? And I listened, I sat down and listened to it about 4 more times, and I was getting the chills and the nausea, and I was like, that wasn't there when Shelby and I were in there.
You definitely would have commented, why is there a baby?
Yeah, what? That is not what I heard. I heard in person, faint little knocks and murmurs, not a cry. I hate it. I hate it so much.
Yeah. I don't even want to get into what that means or anything.
No, that will stay a mystery. If anyone knows the answer to that, keep it to your damn self. I don't want to know.
Don't tell us.
You can
this
tell
is
your
the
friends.
one thing we don't want to know more.
do not equip us more with the knowledge of that. We don't want to know.
Do not want. That's one thing I'm okay without ever knowing.
I can go to my grave without knowing that information and be happy as a clam.
So yeah, I will say, when I got back to the van and I sat down in the back seat, I could feel everything leave, all this fear, all the stress. I just felt it wash away.
Yeah.
So I felt a lot better once we got to the car. I don't know how long it took for you to feel to go back to normal.
Do you remember? I have a problem sleeping. Just in general, I cannot sleep for the life of me in a car. I cannot. Sometimes I just lay in bed and I stare at my ceiling for hours while my husband snores peacefully. I just cannot go to sleep. I got into that car and I passed the fuck out. Like I think everything, all the fear and everything left my body, along with every ounce of energy that I had. I think I got drained while I was in there because I slept until we were almost home. I don't remember charging the car on the way home. I was not conscious for that stop at all. Bizarre. I do not sleep in vehicles.
Yeah, she's got to stay awake. She's got to look at the horizon.
Yeah. Listen.
She gets motion sick.
I get motion sick. I have car anxiety. If I'm going to die, I'm going to see it coming face on. Not like I could do anything about it if I'm not driving. But I'm very much I cannot sleep in a car. I'm not comfortable. My body aches. I have too much anxiety. I can't do it. And for me to just like get in the car, close the door, I did buckle myself and then just like slumped against the door was abnormal.
The only thing I remember was like, I remember one of the hosts like driving past us furiously.
Yes.
In her Jeep. And then I fell asleep and I woke up when we got to Walmart because they were being very noisy. And I was very annoyed because I was tired. And nothing on them. Like they were making sure they got us home. I am just a crabby bitch if I don't get good sleep.
Me
and I've been stressed for hours. And so I was just like But then I fell back asleep and didn't wake up till we got to like the gas station.
Yeah.
To like take Nancy home with us.
Yeah.
So
I think when we got to the gas station, I woke up again and stayed awake until we got the rest of the way home. And then got into bed and again, just done for.
Yeah.
I was done for.
We didn't get home till like 4 a.m. It took us 2 hours to get back.
Yeah.
And then I had to take a shower and wash everything off me. So I didn't go to sleep till like 5.
I could not. There was no way that my body was going to allow that.
There is no way my body would have allowed me to get into a bed with that prison still on my skin.
That's fair.
It would have been like, no!
I did.
You must clean.
I changed every bit of clothing I had. So that was good enough. But I mean, I was sleeping next to my kids anyway, so who knows what they had gotten into before getting into the bed. But I slept until...
She slept till like noon.
12:30.
It was almost noon when you woke up. Oh, it was afternoon, yeah.
It was 12:30. I slept so long. The next morning, I got out of bed and I walked into the kitchen and Morgan said, before you get coffee, which is a bold move in itself, before you get coffee, I need to hug you because I missed you. And I was like, what year is it? How long was I gone? Is it like a week later? Did I go into a coma? Like, what? You missed me.
I just had like this full body compulsion. Like, you have to hug Emily right now for life.
So confused.
And so I was like, I don't even know what was going. I was still like, I don't know what was going on through my head either.
I don't know, but
I lived, and then
I was non-caffeinated and confused, so I hugged you back and then shuffled around to get coffee.
I wasn't going to prevent you, just like a 2-second detour, and then
you didn't hang on too long. It was fine. Thank you.
No,
I was just like in Jumanji.
What's happening?
What year is it? It was, oh my God, that was so wild. So freaking wild.
So that was the Brushy Mountain State Penitentiary.
Yeah.
I don't really care to go back at all.
Especially
not even
after
in the
baby
daytime.
crying. Oh my God.
Oh my, never again.
No. That's, whew.
So, yeah, that's our yearly super special intensive bonus episode.
Yeah.
Congratulations on having like 4 hours of bonus episode to listen to. Yay.
Yeah. Yay. You're welcome. I know we're giving away a free episode this month, and to say thank you to all of our wonderful patrons, you guys are going to get a little surprise in the mail from us. So stay tuned for that.
Because we love you.
Because we love you, and we're glad. Like, you help pay for us to do crazy shit like this. So the more patrons we get, the more adventures we get to go on and report back to you, and we would love to do more of this. So,
and the more stuff you get, yay!
Yay! Yeah, we'll see.
Everyone loves stuff. And if you guys listening to this bonus episode want to get in on this extra special bonus item that we're going to be giving away, you guys can become Patreon members too.
Oh my God, sign up in October and we'll send you the little bonus thingy,
our little
too.
Special gift.
Yeah.
So, but you have to sign up in October.
You have to sign up in October.
This is an October special. You'll have the whole month because this releases the first Friday of October.
Yeah. Okay, sign up. You get more random stuff from us. I mean, who doesn't want a 5th episode every month? And they get long and crazy and weird. And you can
not
go
quite
back.
This weird, but pretty weird.
We have a year's worth of bonus episodes. One of them talking about my hams. So,
not just her hams, but they do feature.
They do feature. Feature film.
And we have a lot of ideas that we're going to, we want to like share with our Patreon listeners. So definitely Patreon is the place to go for updates and things like that.
Yeah. All right. Well, I already can't wait till next year. I'm sure Morgan could.
I could, for sure. I don't know. I said to Emily, I was like, why do I keep doing this to myself? I don't like being scared. I don't like ghosts.
So sign up for our Patreon. We'll send you fun stuff. And of course, you get the normal stickers that we send you anyway. And if you're going to go to Brushy, run away if you hear a baby crying.
Yeah. I don't have anything else to add. Don't go to the 3rd floor.
Yeah, just maybe go only to the restaurant. Surely it's not haunted, right? I don't doubt it.
You
it
never
probably is. Oh my God.
Yeah. A lot of people died there. Who knows?
Yeah. Okay. Okay, bye.
Okay, bye.